Hey guys, I thought I would pop on and use this time of isolation and quarantine as a good excuse to just chat with you guys and catch up, see how you're going, and also let you in on more about me and why I got into this industry and how I became a dog trainer and what my goals are, as a dog owner and as just a human being. Now, this little man here behind me is actually the reason why I got into dog training to start with. He's actually been a huge blessing in my life, like many dogs are for many of us. It definitely hasn't been an easy journey, that's for sure. It's been quite a challenging one. Um, he's taught me many things, not just about dogs, but about dog ownership. He's taught me how to create boundaries, why it's so important to create structure, why it's so important to have healthy relationships with your dogs, not dependent on, rolling around with them 24/7, but creating that really healthy structure and clear communication. Because when I rescued him, he's now, I think he's 5. I rescued him at 6 months and he was so tiny. He was only about 6 kilos. He came from a pretty bad background. He wasn't treated very well. He was neglected. I generally don't like going into that story too much because I feel like, what we've learned and where we've come, to now is so far beyond that story. That was only a past story, but it is important to know that we do have limitations with our dogs. They're not always perfect. And I know for many of you guys, when you rescue dogs or you get dogs without knowing their background, it can be really challenging, a couple of years down the track as they grow up, or even if they're adult dogs, you start seeing different things that you're like, oh, this wasn't what I expected or not what I planned on, dealing with as a dog owner. So when we rescued him, things were a little bit different. We kind of just worked with what we knew at the time, which wasn't very much. And we got to a space where as he grew older, behaviorally he was a mess. He was already nervous. He hadn't been exposed to many people or dogs at all. He was just, pretty much in his own isolation period where he was around nothing, for the first 6 months of his life. And anyone out there knows that dogs should be exposed to as many things as possible in that period. They should be exposed and socialized to many sounds, many surfaces, many smells. And it's why we always stress that, especially when you get puppies, to expose them to many different things in a healthy way, because it can have a really big impact on how they view the world later on and how confident and resilient they are, as they grow into adulthood. So with Lush, we just knew that we were going to have limitations, but we didn't really know what they would be, what they would look like. And as we kind of navigated those first few years, they were really challenging. We had very serious issues with him around other people, him around other dogs. He didn't even know how to play with toys. He'd just shred them all the time. He wouldn't really listen or trust us at all, which made it really hard to build that relationship and to have him, understand that we weren't going to hurt him or weren't going to put him in harm's way. So, and that takes time, guys. Like you guys know, it takes time to build those relationships with your dogs. It doesn't happen overnight. I know that a lot of us think we can give our dogs a few treats and, they seem happy to be with us, but that true trust and respect really comes from earning it. And I know that for us, initially it took a little bit of time, but once I started adding a lot more structure in our world and I started advocating for him in lots of situations, because at the start I didn't know, I put him around lots of things that he just wasn't comfortable with, and it really made that start of our journey very challenging. But as he got older, I started learning more about what he needed, what I needed to do as a dog owner, and it really changed our world so much. I've got him to attribute this business to, because he was really the start of it all. He got me so passionate about understanding dogs and why they behave the way that they do. I didn't really understand, why certain dogs would need different sorts of training than others. And I thought that, in my naive brain, because that's all I really knew at the time, was that, you know, treats and cuddling and, you know, loving on our dogs was the only really thing they needed. But they need so much more than that. They need structure, they need guidance, and they need us to lead them. They need us to communicate with them in all sorts of situations. So he really helped me become a better leader and a better human as well. And he made me become a lot more confident in myself just as a human, knowing how to navigate situations, knowing how to set boundaries with other people, knowing how to create a calm household as well. And that all goes to play, you know, or comes to play as a dog owner. You need to set up certain situations in your house where, you know, it's structured, even for your own self, for your own sanity. You need to have that self-care, those practices that you instill into your everyday, so that you find structure, you find stillness as well. So he's really taught me just how to be a calmer, more, I guess, disciplined person, which I've really enjoyed as well. And I think it was 3 months ago, we road tripped from Queensland to WA, which I never thought would have been possible. Like, we couldn't even get him around in public. It was so terrible at the start. And then just through rehabbing him myself, I just, like anyone does when they're interested in something, they just go, you know, head deep into it. They research. You spend every, you know, sleeping hour pretty much looking at podcasts, reading books, finding mentors overseas that you can chat to, that you can ask questions with. That's why I'm so passionate now about sharing free content, because that's how I learned a lot of the skills that I have now. And obviously working with lots of dogs as well has given me that knowledge and experience. But at the start, you know, I was working by myself with it, and it was amazing to see the changes I could make just by putting in that time every day, just by adding some structure in, just by changing who I was, in the sense of, you know, becoming more of a leader and not just that fun parent. And I knew that he needed that. I knew that he wasn't responding well to a lot of affection, to a lot of, I guess, high energy. And so it really made me rethink the way that, you know, I act around dogs, because I used to be that person, if I saw a dog out at the front of the cafe, I'd just go up and pat it. I wouldn't think about, you know, that is also a boundary. That's someone else's dog, and I probably should be asking them if I can pet their dog, and not just running over and getting on the ground and letting them lick my face. You know, if you ask permission, of course, that's one thing, but you know, it really taught me a lot with boundaries with other people and their dogs as well, and just knowing that not all dogs are comfortable with that. Not all dogs want to be approached in that way. So it's been a really good life lesson for me, and he's taught me so much. So from there, I just started rehabbing him. I got him out in public. I got him around lots of people, lots of dogs. And then I started training up friends' dogs, families' dogs. And then I just put a flyer out in the letterbox and started training dogs in my estate. And then it just built and grew from there. And then I ended up road tripping with my partner and our dogs from Queensland to WA just a few months ago. And it was amazing. And it's just ignited this passion in me that I just want to be able to travel in a van or a truck with our dogs around Australia and just explore, you know, as much as we can with the dogs that we have. We really have worked hard to create this lifestyle with them where they can have as much freedom as possible. But that would not have been possible, you know, when we initially got them. I was not in a space where I thought that was even a goal. You know, even getting him out in public was impossible at that time. So you've got to start where you're at. And I just thought that that might be a really cool little message to share with you guys, that I too can relate to where a lot of you have come from. Probably even have a very different experience to many of you as well. But, you know, I didn't just look this up and then got interested that way. I went through it with my own dog. I still go through my own things with my dogs, and it's made me a better human and a better dog owner. So I hope that you're all having great days with your dogs. I wanted to share that with you. I'm sending love, sending positivity, and I'm sending thanks to this big boy for everything that he's taught me. All right, guys. Bye for now.